Okay. Hold on. Remote shooting. Live view shoot. You're in live camera, sayang. Well done. Good afternoon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on, Malaysia? How are you all doing? My name is Harith Iskander. Assalamualaikum. Welcome to the show. It is 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. I just want to make sure that everyone is safe, everyone is well. Thank you so much for joining us. As usual, we'll do a quick technical check. Please let me know in the comment section if you can hear me and if you can see me, and we will shoot off from there just to let you know. Miko Chang, Shamila Lamberger, Ivy Go, what's going on? Adrian Namos, TTT, One Arilil, Salam dari Tropicana PJ. Yes, thank you so much, guys. Before we begin, if you're with us from the very beginning, please share this link. If you're on Facebook, share this live book post. If you're on YouTube, share it as well. Share it on WhatsApp, share it wherever you are. Juan Errol Lee says it is absolutely clear. Thank you, Juan. This is going to be an interactive show as usual. If you have been following us on What's Going On Malaysia, you know that we get someone joining me in a while who I guarantee akan memedaskan hidupmu. Memedaskan is a new word that I've just added into the kamus Dewan Pustaka. Please, people from the kamus, masukkan perkataan memedaskan. It may not catch on very fast, but I guarantee you it means a lot. Thank you. Just want to point out the shirt that I'm wearing. This is a shirt, my school shirt. I am from St. John's Institution. It was called St. John's Institution when I was there. Then I think they changed the name at one point to Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan St. John's. I am an alumni of St. John's. It's in Bukit Nanas. And our greatest enemy was from Victoria Institution. So semua budak-budak St. John benci dengan budak-budak Victoria Institution. If there's anybody from St. John's, please shout out now in the comment section. We are live on Harith Iskander Facebook. We are live on the Joke Factory Facebook, and we are live on Harith Iskander Comedian YouTube. Saravanan says, thank you for having this kind of forum. Saravanan, it is my absolute pleasure. I have had some wonderful guests. And tonight, the reason I bring up my school is because tonight we are going to be talking about education. Now, I know this topic is going to meletup because even before we began, in just on the promo section, the orang dah been throwing in a lot of suggestions. Harith, why don't the Ministry of Education do this, ataupun do that, ataupun, you know what? We're going to try and cover as much of it as possible because of the guest that I am about to bring on the show. And before I do this, once again, please, a reminder, share this Facebook post, share this YouTube link, because whoever you are sharing it with does not want to miss what we're going to be talking about tonight. So before I bring this gentleman on, I just want to give a little bit of history. I met him during the first, just around before the first MCO, through a various, I asked one person to introduce someone to me who might be able to help me in a certain topic, and went to see, and I met up with this gentleman, and he immediately captivated me with amazing anecdotes and stories of his history, and I'm going to be delving a little bit into that. Of course, a lot of people also commented like they didn't really know who he was, but I guarantee you after this session, you will know exactly who this gentleman is and what his principles are. He is a professor, originally of architecture. He's an architect, but he is also very learned and very experienced in commentating. He writes a lot of articles. He's in a lot of newspapers and a lot of online forums, and he gets invited to a lot of occasions to talk about different issues. And I'm so honored that he's here with me tonight. I want to please welcome onto the studio Professor Tajuddin Rasdi. Assalamualaikum, sir. Apa khabar? How are you?
Waalaikumsalam. Harith, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Prof. How are you doing during this whole FMCO or MCO or PKP or PKPB, whichever machination of the letter. I hope you are well and safe. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm fine. The only drawback is that I don't get to see my grandchildren. That's really something not so nice, lah. I get to
Yeah,
do a lot of writing. It's good.
I don't. Yes, and we will be talking about that. Can you spend just a minute or so, just for the
Sorry, there's a lag in the internet. What was it that you were saying? S- Sorry, Harith, you're frozen. Hello? Yes, can you hear me? Hello? Harith, I'm not receiving any question from you. What is it? Well, I'm sorry, I'm not having any questions, or would you like me just to start the discussion? Well, I'm so sorry. I'm not sure whether anybody is listening or you can listen to what I about to say, because I've lost Harith here. Well, just in case that this thing is going on, perhaps I just maybe just begin until maybe some of the technical difficulties are done. Well, I'm very concerned about education in this country. And just to start things off, we have heard about the cancellation of Ramli Ibrahim's lecture at UTM. Are we on now?
we're on now, Prof.
We're
You
on
took
now.
over the show. Well done.
Okay, so maybe I just continue.
I think you just continue.
Yeah. Okay.
Can
Right.
you, I
So
missed
I'm
out
very
on
concerned
about 5 minutes. What did you tell the people?
Yeah, well, I was just about to say that I'm very concerned about what's happening in the universities of Malaysia. Now, if
Okay.
the universities are not really that good in the sense of being critical and being open, then I think we are all in big trouble. For instance, the cancellation of Ramli Ibrahim's lecture on dance, Indian dance, and this was done by UTM, so-called the religious department. So that was very concerning because are there no professors there who can actually critically think about what is Indian dance and the arts, for them to allow certain people who may not be educated in the arts to actually pronounce a decision on such a thing. I also remember a time when University Malaya closed its gates to Anwar Ibrahim when he was supposed to give a talk to the students. And the same thing also occurred in International Islamic University, where they closed the gates, they turned off the electricity. I mean, this is quite incredible when you don't allow somebody else to present a different perspective of what's going on in the country. I think that is where the problem of education comes from, Harith. Education is not about you teaching one single line of thinking. It is about exposing to different thoughts and ideas. And if you don't recognize that, then it's just simply conditioning. Okay,
Well,
like when you teach slaves.
is this not the reason, Professor, that you are often in a lot of trouble because you say things like this where you're saying things like, oh, education is not just about presenting one point of view. It is about presenting a myriad of ideas, and then next thing you know, Prof pun kena ban sini, tak boleh. Like for example, I know you write a lot of columns which appear in Chinese papers, tapi bukan bahasa Malaysia papers. Why is that, Professor? Orang Melayu tak suka you kenapa?
Well, I think orang Melayu at the present time has a very narrow and simplistic perspective of Islam. Anything they construe as against some sort of mainstream Islam, then they say it is wrong. I mean, I give you a very simple example.
Please do.
I'm trained as an architect. Okay, I'm trained as an architect. I did my PhD on the mosque, the architecture of the mosque, and I'm the so-called expert of mosque architecture in this country and also in the world. When I presented my ideas to, say, in UKM, I said that if you build domes and there are still people hungry and all that, this is a very wasteful thing. If you build minarets 1, 2, 3, or 4, this is also wasteful, and this is not part of what the original purpose of the mosque was. And finally, I said something about the mosque being inclusive. The Prophet had received Christians from Najran inside the mosque, and here we are talking about so many restrictions of non-Muslims coming in, having to wear this robe and walk on this carpet and all that sort of thing. And when I said all these things, I was never invited back to have any further discourse on architecture. In fact, in one Islamic university, one professor said, Prof, the dome, if I pray at a mosque where there is no dome, I don't feel my prayer is complete lah. I said, mana you dapat iman ni nak kena ada kubah and things like that. I mean, they don't understand Islam.
Let me clarify this as I'm hearing it from a third person point of view. So your proposition at this time was, apa gunanya we build this is your proposition, why we build huge monuments with huge domes, because why was this a personal opinion of yours from an architectural point of view, or was it a personal opinion from a humanitarian point of view, or were you using what you understood to be Islamic thought in this idea?
Yes, because in my research, I have already looked at what the Prophet's values was. Now, the Prophet, you go and find, he's not going to say you can build minaret, because there was no minaret. You can build dome and things like that. He's not going to say that. We need to understand his value system. Okay, if the Prophet says that taking ablution from a river full of water, you still need to be thrifty with water. How do you argue with a mosque having 2 minarets? What do you need 2 minarets for? How do you argue with a mosque having 4 minarets? How do you argue with a mosque in UTM having 6 minarets when there are children living under the bridge? Who is going to answer God? Okay, when he asks, how come you didn't know that there was a children living under the bridge and you're building this minaret which has no function whatsoever? In the olden days, it was said that the minaret was, nar means fire. They light the fire to indicate that the time of prayer is there. Because if you call the azan from the top of the minaret, nobody's going to hear you, only the birds. Okay,
but isn't that why they have loudspeakers?
They don't have loudspeakers in those days. So usually they just climb up to the roof or certain area. So the minaret is basically a symbol. And in the book Minarets of Cairo, I read, minarets are also built sometimes to commemorate somebody's birthday, the Khalifa or the winning of a war, stuff like that. So when we look at history and we saw 4 minarets and then we replicate that without questioning why and what's the sense of it, that is where the critical aspect of thinking is no longer there. And when you point that out, people get offended because it's not normal. It's not something that you practice daily. It's new thing. So new things are a very dangerous thing. I said, if you in the university are not used to new ideas, are not used to controversial ideas, are not used to discourses, then I said tutup lah university. And people get very angry when I say things like that. I just want one more example. The book by G25. Have you heard of it? Breaking
No.
Silence. Yeah,
Please,
Breaking
please.
Silence. Yeah, Breaking Silence is an excellent book produced by G25 in order to deal with the question of Islam. And the scholars that wrote this are people like Shah Salim Faruqi, Azmi Sharom. All these people are expert in laws, and they take the Islamic perspective. What happened to the book? It was banned by the Kementerian Dalam Negeri. And why did they ban it? They said two things. Number one, all those who wrote are not ustad, and the other is that this will cause problems in society. Then when I read the book, and I noticed that none of the professors from Islamic University had actually said something. Then I said, why aren't you saying that this is a good book? Why aren't you giving your opinion on that? Why am I the only one saying that this is a good book? So if you are allowing the Kementerian Dalam Negeri to decide which knowledge is good and which knowledge is bad, then might as well let them take over the university lah. What for are you having your professorship or your doctoral and things like that?
Okay.
So this is the problem.
I totally understand where you are coming from. From my knowledge, and this is okay, we're going back a few years. Kat sekolah pun, even at sekolah kebangsaan, it was still very much we were taught A, B, C, D, E, and jangan tanya soalan outside A, B, C, D, E lah. And if you happen to ask a question about F or G, they were like, kau siapa, apa kau tanya soalan bodoh, or don't ask that type of question. So I grew up from the age of 7 to 17, stopping asking questions of most teachers, not all teachers. Back in my day, there were still some very, what I would say at that time, forward-thinking teachers, because, if I asked a question that was not in the syllabus or outside what I was taught, I was told to stop asking questions. And generally, I stopped asking questions. And it's only when I was very fortunate to be able to go overseas, and I went to Australia and studied there because my parents had saved up all their money to send me there, that I found out that there the lecturers were more interested in my thoughts rather than me learning from the lecturer. And because I didn't ask any questions the first 2 months, the lecturers actually, Harith, why aren't you asking, more questions? Like, why are you just writing everything down? Because I was like, from the age of 17, teacher cakap kita hafal, tulis, and then regurgitate, read, remember, regurgitate. So this education that you are talking about, I understand completely the theory of it, but did it ever exist in Malaysia at any time
Yes,
in life?
Let's take, for instance, this mug. Well, what color do you think this mug is?
Okay, now we are delving into deep existential territory. I would say pink.
What color?
Pink.
You say pink, right? Okay, well, one question is, what happens if you are so-called colorblind? What color would this be?
Good question.
Yeah, so it'll be something like gray, right?
Gray or blue,
right. Yeah. That's another thing. What if you were a cockroach? Do you think you'd see this pink? Does the cockroach see this as pink? And that's another question, right?
Okay.
And the last question is, what happens if I change the light bulb into green? What do you think is this color?
Okay, I see.
It would not appear that. So when I said, what color is this to many people in many workshops, they'll always give me pink. They never ask, well, what is the source of light, and what are the receptors? Is it this? So you you immediately assume things, okay? And this is what happens in our country. We are never trained until to the PhD, even sometimes. Not all the time in PhD, but I have met people who never question why. For instance, there was this lady who was doing something on facilities management, and she was asking me about mosque, and the facilities was mosque. And then she said that what were all these aspects about the mosque? And I asked her, which kind of Islam are you talking about for the mosque? And she said, what do you mean? I said, if you're talking about Jabatan Agama Wilayah Islam, that's different. If you're talking about Tabligh Islam, that's different. If you're talking about Parti Islam Malaysia, that's different. If you're talking about Ikram Islam, that's different. All of these different ideas of Islam will govern what the mosque can be used or cannot be used. How is it that you have immediately assumed that the mosque has only a single role or a single function? I followed the tabligh for some time, and I know the different functions that they use the mosque for. I also was involved in Parti Islam Malaysia, and I know what they use the mosque for. And I was also involved in many aspects when in the United States. I don't know where were you studying in the US, was it?
No, I spent a little bit of time in Australia.
Yeah, well, in the US, there's a Malaysian Islamic study group that I was part of, and we have a lot of activities in. So I'm very familiar with the different kinds of activities. So here's the question: when what we are teaching is basically what we call conditioning, and then we are not allowing the question. One history teacher told me, a teacher told me, this is useless teaching history, Prof. I said, why? Because history is supposed to be a lot of questions about the past because it deals with interpretation. We don't know. We were not there during Merdeka. We were not there during many important events. So what is important is the various narratives that comes out of different perspective in order for us to view it in this way or that way. But here in Malaysia, we only have only one way, which is the MCE way. Okay, the MCE says you have to answer this way, and there's no other way. So that becomes pointless in studying history. Now I ask you,
SPM.
I ask you, Harith, what is history about? Is it about the past or is it about the present?
Well, the seemingly logical answer would be is about the past.
Yeah, because the problem here is that if you understand that history is written by people in the present who is concerned about a lot of things, what is the Malay position, what is this, what is that. And once you decide that, then you go and select some things in the past in order to make whatever narrative that you are holding to be quote unquote true. And so that has always been this problem in historiography. It's not a problem. It's how people do. History is about one person put it. It's like you are standing on a boat. Okay, let's say you're standing on a boat in a river, or traveling on a river, and you're looking backwards, and the river would swerve this way and swerve that way, and whenever it swerves, your perspective would turn. And so that is how history is. Whichever the present requires a certain thing, and that's how the history is being looked at. And that's why we need to have a different perspective of things. Like the perspective of, let's say the perspective of May 13. You read Mahathir's book, he says like this. You read Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore story, he says this way and that way. And so these are, people are not lying, they are explaining things the way they see it, and this is very important. So number one thing about education, like the one that I wrote, was to be able to accept the various narratives, perspectives, ideas, as well as belief systems of others. If you think your own world is right, then susah lah macam tu you nak hidup. Bukan kata dekat Malaysia, in the world pun, who is going to accept you?
No, you have an absolute point about I'm paraphrasing here, but history, I read somewhere, history is written by those in power who want you to think the way they think. Listen, Prof, we need to stop for just 1 minute, and I will tell you why. What happened in the earlier little glitch up was I had to jump from my internet to another internet, but I'm just going to take maybe 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Will Professor still be on the line? Prof, you're going to have to take over the show once again. I'm going to leave it in there. Please don't say anything to get me arrested. I guess
Okay.
I've got 3 children.
Sorry lah. Okay.
So everyone who is watching, I'm going to jump out of this screen for about 35 seconds to about 45 seconds. While I'm jumping, please share the Facebook post. I can see the numbers of viewers are going up because Prof is just spewing gold nuggets of aspirational. I wouldn't say truth, because truth is in the eyes of the beholder. So Prof, take it away as I try and navigate my way back to you in just a moment. Professor, please take it.
So I'm running the show now. Okay, good. In one sense, I've always said that the place of the university is the place of questions. It is not a place of answers. And I've always told my students, whether they are undergraduate or whether they are postgraduate, that the university is the place of questions. And once we have understood certain questions, then we give certain responses to the question. They are not answers. Because if they are answered, then you become God. You become arrogant. God is arrogant, and that's fine. But you are not supposed to be God. So if you say that you found an answer, you won't listen to anybody anymore. So what you have found is a certain aspect of the answer, or what you have found is a certain perspective of the answer. And so in the university, we deal with questions. Why? Because professors have studied a certain subject, like say the mosque, to its end, and so he or she will be able to see a wider variety of concerns, and that's why they always have questions. I always first of all never understood Lao Tzu when in the Tao Te Ching he says that the wise stay confused. I mean, if you're wise, how come you're confused? Now I understand, because I'm quote unquote confused. And confused here means that there are a lot of questions about Islam and modernity, questions about Malayness and the idea of Malaysia, questions about how we deal with this aspect of building mega buildings, very expensive ones, but there are still children living under bridges who are Malaysians. This is totally unacceptable. Whether you're talking about Islam, or you're talking about being a Malaysian, or you're talking about basic human decency, there is no justification for spending money in mega projects when there are poverty, like what we have read. People not being able to pay. We recently hear about the man who jumped from the 10th floor, and because he was so depressed because of the economy and things like that. Why is this happening? Why is it that when people don't have money, they don't know where to go? What's wrong? Don't we have a government? I thought we have like 70 ministers and deputy ministers, and we'll have 1.5 million civil servants. How come people who are so hard up cannot find help? And if the netizens, or if the people of Malaysia, sometimes being reported by FMT or Malaysia Kini, they are the ones that become the angels to help. Where is the government? What are they doing? The government, in fact, is supposed to be a representative of us. So here again, the question about education. What is education about? Education is about being able to accept various different narratives, opinions, faith, belief system, so that we can accept, not tolerate, accept everyone within their own way of looking at things. Now, some people will say, "Oh, this one susah lah. If they have different opinion, we have different opinion, then there will be gaduh-gaduh." I say, you pernah kahwin ke? You tak pernah kahwin? Kalau you pernah kahwin, your wife tu 34 years of marriage will still be different than you. Okay, how many times bergaduh tak tahulah. Okay, I used to joke and say that when I got married, only we agree on 4% of things. The 96% selalu bergaduh. After 34 years of marriage, I'm proud to say that we agree on 8% of the time. Only an increase of 4%. But why is it that we are able to live together for 34 years? Because I learned to accept her different opinions, her different ways of things. I learned to go along, and be part of her world, as well as she being part of my world, without her having really to, accept fully or understand fully. So that is actually the secret of living together, because you can accept the other. And this is a very important education as construct that we are not teaching, living with differences. Okay, what are we doing if we don't teach about living with differences? Do you know how the Kadazan people live? How their belief system? We don't. I don't. So this is something which is very very strange in geography or ilmu alam. I never studied those things, and I don't even know how the Murut people greet each other. This is shameful. After 60 years of Merdeka, we don't acknowledge even the orang asli, how they live. We force them to live the way we live. We force them to believe the way we believe. We force their economy the way we have our economy, which is not entirely correct in that manner as a democratic country. So boleh. Okay, Harith, is that okay?
Prof, I was just listening to you off screen. Thank you so much. By the way, I have been listening to you even as I've been off screen. The point, the things you have been saying, your point of view. I've been looking at the comments. People are really getting into it. In fact, there was one person who said, "I must be stupid. I can't understand anything." Please do not feel bad. It's probably because you were educated in the Malaysian education system. That's a joke. That is a joke. Please, we're trying to keep it a little bit humorous here. But no, to be honest, yes. I also, as you were mentioning just now, I feel a bit bad that when you were mentioning the Murud and everything. Yeah, I don't even talk about Murud. There are still some cultural differences within my community, be it Malay or even in my surroundings, that I would to this day go, "Oh, I didn't know, you did that," kind of thing. But which brings me to a point, that article I read where you were talking about the education system, Malaysia's education system. Are we teaching our children to be prepared for Malaysia or global? I think that was the point of your article. Um, I mean, it's one thing to say, why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing that? But I just want to point out one thing to a lot of the viewers who may not know, that you started out as a member of PAS. Is that, you mentioned it just now? Is that correct?
Well,
Yeah.
I joined PAS in order to buy the Harakah newspaper, because Mahathir said you have to be a member of PAS, then only you can buy
Oh,
Harakah.
really?
Yes, I wasn't interested to be in any political party. If there are people who do good, like at that time, PAS was doing very good in terms of their compassion, in terms of their ideas. I listened to Hadi Awang's 200 of his cassettes when I was in the United States. Never once that he said all the nonsense that he's saying now. Okay, so I know Hadi Awang from way back, not personally, but I have met the man in his house and talked to him. And so I was a member, and I attended the ceramah, or the what do you call it, their conference and things like that in Terengganu, in Kuala Lumpur. And so I saw that they have become so different away from the Islam that I have studied with the hadith of the Prophet. Their value system is totally becoming 100% racist. Okay, when they moot out all these ideas, and I'm just waiting which professor from International Islamic University is going to counter these mad people. Okay, they are saying things like you cannot elect anybody into a leadership position if they are not Muslim. This is berdosa. And which book are you referring to? Some 600-year-old kitab, okay, which has nothing to do with Malaysia. Come on, right? So oh no, you cannot question. He's the Tuan Guru. He knows Arabic.
Okay, just backtrack 2 seconds here. Did someone say this? Did someone come out and say you cannot elect a leader
Yes,
in
he said
Malaysia
it.
unless they are Muslim?
Yeah, he said it. He said it. And then when somebody said, then how come you allowing people like MCA in? Or then he changed it. He said, Oh, that one is okay because they are not like the DAP. This DAP. They are very extremist. They are very boisterous. I mean, only subdued person, people who are not questioning us, then we can work with these people. This one is okay. Ya, kata this person tak pernah kahwin, tak pernah ada anak ke? Your children when they grow up, they stand up against you and things like that. You cannot hope for them to follow a lot of the things that you think is right. Lastly, we say, okay, they are their own path.
And isn't it incredible? Because right now, people who still think that way or speak that way, and there are many of them, right now, education or whatever, I wouldn't even say education, everything is at your fingertips in your smartphone. In the old days, I could ask my Bapa, what is the longest river in the world? And he could immediately reply, the Botswana Bingo River. And I would be none the wiser. If I wanted to know a real answer, I'd have to go to the library, cari encyclopedia, buku, and then maybe 3 months later go to my Bapa and say, Papa, you lied to me. But now we can't do that because education, be it right or wrong or good or bad, is in the fingertips. You cannot tell someone this is the way and there is no other way because they can just Google it and go, like you say, this is a pink cup and it is nothing but pink. They can Google it and go, well, that's because the light is pink. If you take away that, when are we going to catch up with the fact that people are learning or have the ability to learn not everything, but just anything that may not even be correct or right or good in the first place?
Well,
Like, how do we keep up with that?
well, in the first, education has nothing to do with technology. Okay, people always
Okay,
keep
go ahead.
saying that. People keep
Explain
saying that.
yourself.
Look, we must have technology. If not, we will not be educated. Come on, lah. Your phone may be smart. You are not smart. Okay, because you see, because you see,
Put that on a t-shirt.
education is about you nurturing another mind to add 2 plus 3 and not necessarily becoming 5. Okay, let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. What is 2 plus 3?
2 plus 3? 5?
Okay, I can give you unlimited answer. All right, and that answer is only one.
Maths is maths. Oh, come on.
Okay, I'll show you. All right, now what you are answering is because you have assumed the idea of what we call base 10. Okay, base 10 means you're counting like this. Okay, short lesson in mathematics. All right, 1, 2. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What comes after 9?
10?
Okay, you say 10, but it's actually 1, 0. Okay, after that is what? 11? Yeah, 11.
1
After
0
that,
is
yeah,
10,
1,
no?
0. And then it goes
Yeah,
1,
11.
1. And then we call it 11. But then it's 1, 2. And then we call it 12. Then 1, 3. Now, if you are in base 5, this is how you count. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and what's after 4? 1, 0. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. And after 1, 4, 2, 0. 2, 1, 2, 2. This is called base 5. You've heard of the binary system. Binary system only has 0 and 1. That's where it goes with 0, and then after that 1, and after that 1, 0, and then that 1, 1. So it depends. There are base 6, base 7, base 8, base 9, base 10. It depends on what base. So the question here is that when I say 2 plus 3, the question should be, what base are you talking about, Prof? If you're talking about base 10, then it's 2 plus 3 equals 5. But if you're talking about base 5, 2 plus 3 is equals to 1, 0 or 10. If you're talking about base 4, 2 plus 3 is equals to 1-1. So these are the things that I'm not a genius in mathematics. It's the fundamental aspect of numbers that we have not. That shows that our education has been imitative. It was never critical to question things. And as you point out just now, that
Exactly.
when you question, like my daughter who went to International Islamic University, because she was my daughter, and she asked a lot of questions that we asked in the house in relation to Islam and other religions, and she was reprimanded by her lecturers. See, you ask too many questions. You're not supposed to ask too many questions. In Islam, if you do that, then you get sesat. Okay, so this is from a university. That's number one. Number two, I was teaching at the International Islamic University on architecture, and I was showing them my work in the Chinese temple, because I had did some research, what we call historical and measured drawing of a Chinese temple. The boy came, put up his hand and said, "Doctor," I wasn't professor then, boleh ke masuk ke kuil? Ustaz kata tak boleh. This is from university. Okay, so no wonder lah none of the professors said anything about the banning of the book Breaking Silence, or the banning of the book Islam Without Extreme by Mustafa Akyol, as well as the book, the other book was also deemed controversial, was the Islamic Jesus. And so these are the questions that I ask. Why is it that we are allowing, like the Kementerian Dalam Negeri, who does not have any expertise in knowledge, as well as the Pusat Islam in UTM, who doesn't understand anything about arts, govern our life, and why are we accepting, without any questioning? All right, questioning doesn't mean that we reject things, isn't it? Questioning, we need some rational answers, not to say, okay, I follow. No need to go to university lah, like that.
Okay. Let me ask you something, because I'm just keeping an eye here on the comments. Ada orang yang kata, and this is true if I'm looking at the comments, yes, Prof, but we're speaking English, we're talking to an audience that understands English. But of course, yes, it is very clear. Could we have this conversation in Bahasa Malaysia? And to that end, would there be an equal amount of would there be more resistance or more in Bahasa Malaysia? Do you think, we're just talking, I'll just say it like the Malays. How do we have this conversation in Bahasa Malaysia aimed at the Malay audience without getting crucified?
Well, I have friends who went to...
I am using the word crucified, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I have friends who have gone to university, friends who have PhD, friends who are Malay and speak English very well. They don't agree with a lot of the things that I say, simply because they are very comfortable. They are in the comfort zone of Islam. Okay, they live in a Malay dominated neighborhood. They go to the surau, and they pray, and they do the rituals, and they never read any book at all. They depend on the ustaz to tell them, even though they have university education, but they always depend. Why? Because when they were young, they never read anything, they never asked any question, they just do happy things, and then now they are very close to death, and so they are mengejar pahala, we call it. And they have no time to read and to get involved into all this discussion, because it will bring ketidakyakinan. And when you die without ketidakyakinan, then that's it lah. That's it. Yeah, but the point here is that when I see a lot in the WhatsApp, they want to help only Muslims. They don't want to help non-Muslim. Okay, and every problem in this world is always caused by non-Muslim. And this is a problem when we say that even in the Muslim society, there's a lot of corruption and a lot of very
Prof,
bad.
I don't know whether it is.
Okay, so they are not accepting this idea that that if you're a Muslim, then you are becoming you can be very bad. Who has what kind of a idea is this? Look at the so-called Christians during the Crusade. It has been pointed out by many historians that the Crusade has nothing to do with the Christian faith, but about politics. About even though the person was the so-called symbol of Christianity, but there were a lot of people who were not doing the right thing. I mean, the history of Martin Luther King. If you look at how he went against the Catholic Church and how he was persecuted and all that. So just because you go to the mosque, it doesn't mean that you're a good person. Just because that you have saw somebody donate thousands of ringgit to the mosque, that doesn't mean that his raswa is halal. Okay, so why is this perception that because you are from one religion and therefore you can do no wrong? This is the problem of education, where the education does not allow you to critically unpackage the knowledge or information that you have received from another person. You need to unpackage it. You need to deconstruct it, we say it in the PhD. And then you have to reconstruct it back into a manner that you are comfortable with and that you are having the right confidence. If not, your confidence comes from somebody else. And when the Malaikat Maut says, who is the prophet? Your answer is not Muhammad. Your answer is somebody says to me, it was Muhammad. You see, you yourself have never questioned, why should it be Muhammad? Is Muhammad a prophet? Did you ever ask that question? Oh, cannot. You ask that question, you are sesat. Well, how do you know that you are on the right path when you tak pernah pun sesat, in a sense? Meaning that the questioning must come. And all the great, Umar al-Khattab was never born a Muslim. He was one of the worst enemies of Islam, but then he became a Muslim. Why? Because he started to question things. So this aspect of questioning, unfortunately, seems to be a very bad thing in our educational culture, and that it happens at universities where thinking is disallowed, other expressions of thoughts are disallowed, other narratives that have basis are disallowed. What do you have? You have a factory awarding some sort of papers, and you have people writing for journals that have no meaning to develop the society into something that can be more accepting to the global community.
I I'm just sir, I'm so in awe of everything that you are saying, because I just want to speak to all the viewers who are watching right now. Trust me, we are keeping an eye on the comments. Thank you so much for commenting. Please, once again, share this Facebook post. And I know a lot of people discovered over the last couple of months of doing What's Going On in Malaysia. We have even more viewers come in and watch these sessions later. To those of you who are not watching live tonight on a Thursday night, and you're watching this at a later time, please continue to comment, and thank you for watching. Here's what I want to ask Prof. Prof, okay, now we've been talking theoretically, we've been talking idealistically, we've been talking about ideas and thoughts and all. Can any of this actually be put into practice? Can real change, let's just say, we were to change in the direction that you are talking about, where we start to teach critical thinking, for example, not just answering what is 2 plus 3, but critically thinking, are you talking, in this scope or that scope? Can real change happen? And if real change can happen, how can it happen?
In Malaysia, I'm sorry to say, real change cannot happen because the so-called teachers and academics who hold the position of authority, like Guru Besar or Vice Chancellors, are the worst kinds that we have. They are the most narrow-minded. They are the most uneducated, even though they have PhDs, because they are there to manage so that they can be rewarded by Datuk Sri or Tan Sri or whatever the heck it is that they covet. And they are always there in order to make sure, they always say this, jangan malukan universiti. Ngarut lah. Okay, Harith Iskander, I want to ask you,
Yes.
who is the university in a university? Is it the building? Is it the chancellery? Is it the vice chancellor? No, in the university it is Professor Tajuddin Rasdi. Okay, it walking university. So if there are 200 professors walking around who have the credibility and the reputation as well as the credit that is due to them, they are the universities. Okay, the university is not the vice chancellor. The vice chancellor doesn't graduate you with an architecture degree. Vice chancellor cannot give you architecture degree. I can. The vice chancellor cannot give you something about PhD that is not within his or her field. I will award you the PhD. So the university is the person with the ideas, and so also the university is the nurturing of the student. That's why in the olden days, the students are called santri, dagang santri. There were even the idea that if you are a santri, then you are safe from wars and people will respect you, because you are a student. And also the scholar is also being respected because they carry the knowledge that will pass on to generations. And if the scholars die, then a huge part of knowledge dies with them. So the university is these so-called professors. And my late Vice Chancellor, Khalid Yusof, always says that in the faculty, it is the professors who must lead, not the dean. The dean is just a manager. It is the professor. And he used to have forums with just the professor. He's the first Vice Chancellor I know that is very concerned that the professor lead the university, that the professor give the ideas, that the professor push these thoughts into society and make changes in society through their ideas and their research and things like that. It's not about the numbers game of what is your impact journals and things like that. This is what he tried to instill, and unfortunately he did not live long enough to see the fruits of his labor. And that's why I use the term my Vice Chancellor, because he is the only Vice Chancellor that I respect, when the others are simply managers of university for their own personal benefit. Nothing more, everything less.
But correct me if I'm wrong. You're talking about a university level, and yes, that is where great thought is meant to manifest itself. But if a child has gone from the age of standard 1 to form 5, darjah 1 sampai tingkatan 5, without being encouraged to think critically, without being encouraged to ask questions, without being encouraged to stand up or to provide a different point of view, by the time they're 17 or 18 or 19, masuk university or whatever, and have not practiced this, they've not massaged this muscle of critical thinking, surely even then it's not going to be much use that you try and push critical thinking.
Now, do you know, that's why when the pandemic started, I said this is an opportunity for the educators to change their teaching system, because not everybody has online teaching. So I said, number one, reduce the syllabus. Number two, use reading, meaning identify books for them to read. And you know that, Harith, from standard 1, if you trace a child's education through primary school, through secondary school, through university education, even through the PhD, haven't read a single book. Did you know that? Okay. And this...
Sorry, what was the last sentence?
They haven't read a single book. You know,
I would
not read a single book. Then
not be surprised.
Yeah, if you look at the SPM and all, you go and buy the SPM cara menjawab soalan sort of thing. And I have asked this question to many undergraduate who have graduated with very high marks, and I asked them, what book can you tell me change your life? None can say anything about that. And these are people who score 3.98, 3.99, and even 4.0. Okay, so even the PhD, when I check and I ask them, what is the philosophy of Islam are you looking at? They just read journal papers, and they just read other people's conference papers and things like that. When you read a paper, your view is very restricted because the paper is only about 3,000, 4,000 words. But when you read a book, that is how many years of experience of that particular person. And that's why I wrote the article, Doctorate Without Philosophy. Okay, because most of the PhD graduates cannot, you know, put meaning to their work except for them talking about how many papers they're going to produce and how many research grant that they're going to put. I said, so what? What's Malaysia going to be 50 years down the road? Do you think that, let's say a transport engineering. So do you think that there will be buses and cars in 50 years? Or we'll be having flying vehicles and things like that? Even never ask those kinds of questions. They only ask the question what we call depan batang hidung sahaja. That is no way to teach. Reading is key. So that's why I said to you just now, I'm not impressed with technology. I use technology. I like the YouTube and I love YouTube very much. But I'm already a person who has read hundreds of books, thousands of novels, Annie Blyton and all that. So I'm okay with using this knowledge. But you introduce technology to people who have never read books, you get people trying to shortcut answering their questions and their assignments. Now, for my assignment, if you don't read my writings, if you don't listen to my lecture, because some of these students, they hire other people to answer their questions for them through the internet. I'm in the Student Disciplinary Council, and I know disciplinary board. I know some of this cheating aspect that you mentioned about having this technology, and the technology cuts two ways. You can have fast information, but you can also do a lot of cheating, and that's why I said it is not the technology, Harith. It is the way that you think. So when you think that people should have different opinions and different experiences of things, then you will bring them to the mosque, to the church, to the murud people punya celebration, whatever. And you can also provide books to read, books about the stories, the folk stories of the people. And this will give the nilai or the values or the understanding. And we become the richer when we understand others. But the problem here is that I study Islam, that will send me to heaven. Good luck, lah, I said to you, if you think like that, because I don't think you're gonna get there. All right? Because I've not understood wider things.
Okay, I'm just going to rebut you on one particular point. I know what you're talking about, technology and the shortcuts and all. I think where I stand is, I think the crux of the problem here is when I use the word our, I mean what we have been talking about, our non-acceptance of critical thinking, our non-acceptance of anything other than what we are taught. And then we are taught that if it's not the same, it's sesat or salah or tak guna. So automatically it's a box. It's either good or bad. Whereas the current education system completely forgets that most things are gray. Like you say, is it pink? Because we're not asking the question, what is the lighting? What's the light that's being bounced off it? What is the color in the bottle? So the fact that no, if it's not pink, you think it's blue, awak bodoh, awak sesat, awak gunakan mata setan or whatever. So the fact that we are not allowed to have a critical thought, another question, and that if we do, it is seen as negative. It is seen as provocative. Kita kena provoke. It is seen as fighting against good. It is evil lah, so to speak. So I think that is something that nothing to do with technology, but
because
we have to see why we are wired this way.
Yeah, we don't have, I'm sorry to say, good teachers, because when I ask the teachers also, they don't read. Okay, even academic lecturers, when they come to a promotion exercise, and I ask questions about things like, well, you have a PhD and you have already 5 or 6 years doing some of the research. If you were to write a book about your subject matter, what would be the message? They won't be able to answer because they never thought of writing a book. Okay, and if you go to the bookstore, Harith, you will not find any books by academics or professors who look into the crystal ball of where Malaysia is going 40, 50 years down the road in terms of a totality of our life. Why is it that Alvin Toffler, who doesn't have a PhD, but he is just a journalist, and he wrote the book Future Shock, which I read when I was in the first year at Wisconsin. It was just a recommended reading in a psychology class, and I bought the book and I read the book, and 30 years down the road, I see all the things that he had written come to pass. So people in the West predicting what is happening into the future. If you read Michio Kaku, I love reading his book. He's a theoretical physicist, and he's predicting what's to happen in the world in the next 50 years, in the next 100 years. Our professor, apa kerjanya? Just supervising students to write journal papers and waiting for their Datuk Sri Ship and Tan Sri Ship, and never saying anything in the media, because that will suffer like Prof Tajuddin lah. Dia tak dapat jadi apa-apa, you know. This is the problem, you see. They and also because they don't read other things and they only read about their stuff, so they cannot offer any opinion on what's going to happen in society. So this is also another aspect of our education, where an engineer will just be very engineering biased, a doctor will be very doctor biased, a businessman will be very business biased. No, nothing about music, no, nothing about art, no, nothing about environment, no, nothing about this. What exactly, are we teaching here? We're teaching a graduate like a hammer, Do you know what is a hammer? A hammer, can you eat with a hammer? You cannot eat with a hammer. The hammer serves only one purpose, to ketuk something. All right? So basically, when a student graduate, I told him, oh, you already graduated. From where? Mechanical engineering. Oh, very good. How do you like being a screw? I said. What excuse me? He said, a screw. You have just graduated to become a screw that will fit only one particular hole. How do you feel about that? I mean, so we train our graduate who are the brightest. Some of them are very bright in the beginning. Yeah, I always say that you want to destroy their creativity, send to public schools in Malaysia. And after that, to complete that destruction, send them to our public university. Okay, then you get a complete destruction. Then they turn you into a small screw that will fit in one particular place, and that's about it. And so this is the problem and the wastage of ilmu. Ilmu is supposed to be, life is very big, is it? But then we make it small so that it's easy to manage. It's okay. We break it up, also okay, so that we can experiment and also do this and that. But we forgot to put it back together into something else. So this is why you teach this way, that way. You separate history from geography, from agama, from this, and then you say this is agama, this is geography, this is history, this is this is that. So what you've done is you deconstruct life into all these compartments, but then you forgot to put it back together. There is no class to get the student to. So you are sending students outside with a fragmented mind. That's why I wrote an article, Education Towards a Fragmented Society.
Prof. Okay. First of all, now I'm feeling a bit of a Dumbo because I have not read most, if not all, of the books that you have mentioned just now. Neither am I very familiar with some of the authors. But I would also like to send an apology to everybody who graduated from Sekolah Kebangsaan and university. Welcome to the world of being a little screw. Uh, I would like to say you're screwed up as well, but I'm not going to say that. But
No, but
I
you
have to
can
say
you
that
can you can you can get out of being a screw. I mean,
yes,
you have to decide on yourself. You have the power of decision. You can go out and get a book. You can go out and learn for yourself. There are many different ways of learning and questioning. Nobody is stopping you. So even though I seem to be
yeah,
blaming public universities or schools, at one point then you have to stop the blame because you are
you have to
responsible
take
for your action.
responsibility.
Okay, in the akhirat, you cannot say this Hadi Awang taught me wrongly or Azhar Idrus taught me wrongly. No, you have to decide. You have to be your own person. You cannot rely on these people, and that's why you need to be really confident of your knowledge by asking, by finding another source. When you just terima saja and then you don't check another source, this is not critical thinking. Huh? This is slave thinking. All right. So you're not going to go very far with this kind of attitude of education, and you cannot blame others anymore once you are able to read, to write, to actually ask when the opportunity arises, and why didn't you ask when the opportunity arises? This is the thing.
Exactly. Uh, just to wrap up, Professor, you're absolutely correct. At a certain point in life, you need to take responsibility. You need to put your hands on a book. You need to go out, ask questions, get experience, and make up your own minds via critical thinking. Just before we end, Professor, I would like to give you a moment. Can you let everyone know? I can see you've made a lot of new fans here during this session. Let them know about some of your writings and where they can read your thoughts, regular articles. Where can people follow your form of critical thinking and learn more about how to think critically?
Well,
How can they follow you?
yeah, well, I'm a lousy. I'm the slowest technology person to learn. The phone was smarter than me way back. Okay, and I don't have Instagram and all these things. All you need to do is just Google my name, Muhammad Tajuddin bin Muhammad Rasdi, and forget about all those other people who are saying some bad things. I mean, I never really bothered about that. Then you can see a lot of the work. I mean, on the internet, a lot of my writings and columns in Sinchu. You can put in Prof Tajuddin plus Sinchu, then you come up, or you can put in the Star or opinion section, or you can put in Malaysia Kini, or you can put in Malaysian Insider or Malaysian Insight, the Borneo Post. I have written to all of this. I mean, there are about 500 articles that I have written over the course of, I think, 10 years. And I think these are the gist of the, basically the ideas of I have for the future. But also I try to explain what I understand from Islam, which again got me into a lot of trouble with Muslim. I thought that by showing the hadith and the perspective of something which is very beneficial, that they would help the Muslim. And also I write in Bahasa Melayu also in the Utusan Malaysia, as well as in Sinar Harian, as well as in one of them is Suara Merdeka. But the point is, these are writings which I think I try to actually propose different views of things to the Malays. Unfortunately, the Malays don't think that these are something which is worthwhile reading. because they always look at it as that, oh, he's not orang agama and that sort of thing. Well, I have read more books than I think some of these agama people, even in Islam as well as in other aspect. So I hope for one day that the program Tanyalah Ustad will be replaced with Tanyalah Professor rather than that.
With that, I want to say thank you so much to you, Professor Tajuddin, for taking the time out to share
My
your
pleasure.
knowledge, to share your
I'm
opinions.
very honored to be in the presence of people like Harith Iskander, because Harith Iskander is not just a comedian, but he is deeply a person with deep perception, and also very creative and also a compassionate man. And I find much benefit from interacting with him, more so than many of my
Thank you
academic
so much.
circles. Thank you very much, Harith.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us, and thank you for your very kind words. To everybody who's watching, yes, just Google our Saudara's name, Tajuddin bin Muhammad Rasdi, Rasdi, and 500 articles will pop out for you. With that, I'd like to say thank you again to Kasih Prof.
All right.
We're going to let you go out of this room, but I want everyone to stay because I've got, thank you, Prof. Thank you so much, Professor, for being with us. Guys, if you're watching this live, thank you for watching this live. Thank you for commenting. If you are watching this not live, later on, thank you as well. And please share this post. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, share it on WhatsApp, because I can tell you something. A lot of what Professor has said today is probably going to get me arrested. But you know what I want to do? Here's what I want to do. I want to introduce a new segment into what's going on Malaysia. I want you to leave a comment about your thoughts about the show. Now, so it doesn't have to be that you're watching it live, but you could be watching it later. And to the best comment, if you've been following what's going on Malaysia, tonight's episode with Professor Tajuddin or any of the other episodes, tell us what you've enjoyed about the show. Tell us what the show means to you. And for the best comment from this show, I'm going to be giving away, speaking of books, a copy of one of my favorite books from one of my favorite Malaysians, Lat. Dato Lat, not just an incredible illustrator and cartoonist, but definitely someone who has shaped my thoughts about what it means to be Malaysian. If you want a copy of this book, Lat, The Early Years, please leave a comment talking about what you thought about the show, how you feel about it, anything that comes to mind. And for the best comment on tonight's show for Professor Tajuddin, I will personally send you this book, Lat, The Early Years. It is an amazing historical journey. And if you know Lat, if you don't know Lat, this is the way to completely fall in love with what I consider true Malaysian, other than Professor Tajuddin. So guys, once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. I got to say something about the comments. Tonight's comments have been especially, how do I say this? I want to use the word learned, but I don't think that is the correct word. A lot of people have been putting forward points of view, their opinions, which I'm really, really excited about. Mac 10 Nyan Van says he used to be known as a trouble student because he had too many questions. Ayolah, gangster lah tu. Huh? Mac 10, kau nak tanya banyak soalan, kau pukul. So, guys, thank you again for commenting. So sorry about the technical glitches. This is what we are dealing with on a daily basis. I hope that you are all safe and your families as well. Thank you for watching once again. Please leave your comment and a favorite review of the show, and we will choose the best review, and we will give away this book, Lat, The Early Years. Once again, thank you very much, Professor Tajuddin. Please follow him, search for him on Google, and read all his articles. The man is a literary thought genius in my mind, and I don't think we've covered half the topics we could cover, and I'd love to talk to him again, and I will definitely be having him on the show. So once again, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your evening, or if you're watching this on the next day, enjoy the rest of your morning. Once again, leave me a review, and best review wins the book. I'll talk to you guys soon. Last comment from Lab Hey Chu. Very enlightening. have also been following Professor Tajuddin Rasdi's radical approach of viewing different subjects from his perspective. There you go. Hey Chu, thank you so much, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Coming up on Monday 28, is it 28? Tony Fernandez in the house. From Professor Tajuddin to Tony. If Prof doesn't get me arrested, Tony definitely will. I will see you guys soon. Take care. Stay safe. This has been Harith Iskander. What's going on, Malaysia? It's too many things for us to talk about in one show. We'll see you on Monday, the 28th. Take care. Goodbye. Assalamualaikum. I need a going out song.